Hello, you're watching James. My name's James, you're watching me, and I'm talking about watches. Now, Pagani Design watches are quite popular. I've had quite a few come into my collection. I've sold a few, but at the moment I've got 3 with me, and I thought it'd actually be quite interesting because they're quite different, the 3 models, to put them side by side and give you a bit of an idea of what this brand actually has to offer in the different types of watches that they do offer. So there's not going to be a re-review of these watches, but what it is going to be is me showing you what they do well, what they don't do well, what the watches have in common, what they have different in the different models that they have available, and I'm going to show you those now. Now, you may have seen the sponsored logo come up. That's because 2 of these watches were provided to me at a discount. I did have to pay for them, but the AliExpress store of Pagani Design, the official store, which I'm going to leave links below for, were nice enough to give me discounts for these couple of watches. Now, let's flip the camera around and I'm going to show you what these watches look like side by side and give you those differences and similarities between them. So here I have 3 Pagani Design watches in my collection. All have a lot of similarities, but all are quite different, as you can see. We got one very distinct, well-known homage watch. We've got another watch which isn't a specific homage to anything, but they've definitely taken some inspiration from other watches. This one here, I actually think it's the same. I think it's not a specific homage. It's just taken some very specific traits from another watch. Not quite enough that I think it's a pure homage. You also see this one comes on a custom-made resin or rubber band, on a bracelet, and on this leather strap. So let's talk about similarities and differences between all 3 of them. What is this brand providing to us? Firstly, similarities, we're all getting the sapphire crystals. There's the same NH35 in every single one of these watches. We're getting reasonable, or at least described, water resistance of 100 meters, 100 meters, 200 meters. So we're talking about a fairly good water resistance. 2 out of the 3 have a see-through case back. 3rd has this very nice engraved case back. The overall finish of the watches is actually fairly similar on all 3 of them. There's brushing along the sides, there's some high polish on a few bits and pieces. We have signed crown on each of the watches. So from a finishing perspective, they do have some similar traits. This one here I think does stand out in the crowd a little bit. Sorry about the light. I do think it sits out in the crowd a little bit, but I think it does that because they put it on a cheaper, sort of just a generic leather strap, because it has a fairly simple dial and doesn't come with a bezel, and because they did decide not to do the see-through case back, I think they had the ability to spend a little bit more money on the rest of the watch. That's why I think it stands out a little bit more for me. So from the negative perspectives, what are the negative things that these watches have in common? Well, bezel action is definitely one of them. This one actually sounds quite nice, but there's backplay, there's movement. This homage here doesn't have the best sound to it, but again, movement and backplay. I mentioned the finishing is very similar. It's very good, but it's not amazing. Straps and bracelets is the next issue that they have. They have homage the specific rubber strap that this particular homage watch has as well. It's done quite well, it looks okay, but there's issues with it. It's very firm, very solid. The buckle they've used is very generic and small. I actually struggle to put this on my wrist. I haven't actually worn this watch too much and it's already starting to fray, and I've seen people that have worn the watch a lot more than I have, and they get a lot of fraying from it. With the bracelets on these watches, I think they're amazing for the money that you're spending, but they're not a luxury bracelet. They're not as good as some of these other watches you're going to buy that cost a lot more money. You need to understand that they're great, but not perfect. They are finished quite well, they are solid stainless steel, they do have solid end links, and they come with milled construction clasps. So for me, these watches have a lot of those similarities, but they also have the few shortfalls or the few compromises amongst all of them that are very similar. Those bezel actions I'm not very impressed by them, but it doesn't bother me too much because they are affordable. I understood that these watches don't always have fantastic bezel actions, so I expected that, so I'm not disappointed. This one did surprise me a little bit just because of the level of quality of it. Those blue hands are really pretty. I guess that actually leads me into probably my final thing I'm going to talk about these watches, is the way that they do their dials is quite amazing. Even when they're fully homaging a watch, they don't do it exactly the same. They do make changes. The watch that this is based on, it's not exactly the same as this. The date position's in a different area, the hands look a little bit different, the indices are tiny, a little bit different. They've put their own unique touches on it, and they've done it really nice and really well. It certainly looks nice, the quality of the face, the quality of everything that's applied on. The hands are neat and tidy. It's quite impressive. Same with this one where they haven't done a specific homage. It's very neatly done. The applied sections and indices and the hands are very neat and tidy, and overall it looks good. And I've already said it a few times, I am very impressed by this one, but it's exactly the same as the same two here. The dial is finished very well. It has a very nice, neat applied markers around the edge, very nice, neat applied numbers, and the hands are particularly pretty and nice on this one. So what I'm going to say in summary to or about Pagani Design watches. They are amazing value, and I think we all know that. But we need to manage our expectations when it comes to these watches. We need to understand they're not perfect, but at this price we can't really expect that. This particular watch here, I was a little bit excited when I ordered it. My expectations were up here, and it came a little bit short, and therefore I ended up being a little bit disappointed. But that's my own fault for having too high expectations. This one here was about what I expected. By the time I bought this one, I was aware not to get too excited about these watches. My expectations were here, but the watch was actually up here, so it ended up blowing me away a little bit. I'm sure you've all had Pagani Designs in your collection, or you're at least seriously thinking about it. Please leave me a comment below about your experiences with Pagani Design. Tell me what you love about them. Tell me what you hate about them. If you've had some good bezel actions on them, I'd love to hear that too. It'd be really nice to know that not all the bezel actions are a little bit terrible. So Pagani Design watches really are a value for money, affordable option to buy. They come with a lot of great specs, they come with good movements inside them, the finishing overall is pretty good, and the pricing you pay is not a lot. However, there are a few compromises as I've shown you. And as I showed you with that one particular watch, there's actually a couple in there that tick a lot of the boxes without many of those compromises. Well, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, I'd really appreciate it if you click that subscribe button. It is the easiest way to support the channel and give me a lot of incentive to keep making videos about watches. Alright, I hope to see you in the next video.